Let us begin where the mind objects, where the nerves want to reach, to grasp, to fix. The paradox must be stated plainly, pressed hard, so that you do not try to soften it with pleasant thinking. When you stop trying to heal, healing begins. How can nothing do anything? How can a cessation, a putting down of hands and head and hurry, produce what years of managing have not produced? And yet you know this already, at least faintly. The more you strive, the louder the fear shouts. The more you manipulate the symptom, the more it performs. Is it not so? The mind becomes inflamed with its own medicine. The body learns to brace against the very one who vows to release it. And so, we are going to stand before the seeming contradiction and not run. Be still and know I am God. This now is not entertainment. It is not a trick of affirmation. It is a discipline, and I must ask you to take it as such. Do not hurry. Do not imagine that because you hear it with agreement, the work is done. It will take months of faithful practice before you can say, "Oh, now I know. You cannot fool me now." And if you are not prepared to practice, quietly, secretly, consistently, then set this tape, set these words aside until you are. I would rather you forget that you heard me than try to use this as a technique to get results and so inflame the very problem you hope to solve. For the purpose of our work, you must assume there are two of you. The named self, John or Mary or me, Joel, that plans, argues, and manipulates, and the I that is, that witnesses and governs without strain. The healing does not begin in increased cleverness by the person. It begins when the person consents to become a beholder, and the I takes its rightful place as the only agency. Be still and know I am God. Not be lazy, not be indifferent, but be still. Withdraw the personal government so that governance may be felt as already present. Our task is to get out of the way without falling into passivity, to relinquish pushing without abandoning attention. I must draw a boundary here, and you must accept it if you continue. Do not attempt to use this teaching as a power to fix others. Put up thy sword. Never undertake healing work until you have established yourself in non-aggression, until you are no longer arguing with appearances or trying to make God do something about a claim. A claim is noisy, yes, but it is not law, and it fattens on your combat. What then may you expect? Not fireworks, and not a peak that vanishes by noon, but a settled, rested certainty that grows as you move from compulsive doing into holy witnessing. You will discover that when you do not thrust, you can hear. When you do not manage, you can behold. And when you are still, the I, your own true life, governs. Then the body quiets, the mind ceases its demonstrations of fear, and the appearance, deprived of your belief in its authority, begins to dissolve into the nothing from which it came. Be still and know I am God. And let us begin. Now then, if we are to do anything at all that is worthy of the word healing, we must settle the most practical assumption you will ever make, and I must ask you to accept it not as a belief, but as a working posture in consciousness. There are two of you. There is the named self, John, Mary, me, Joel, with its history, its temperament, its lovely virtues, and its tiresome habits. And there is I. Not the I that says, I think, I want, I fear. No, the I that is. The I that beholds, that is present before thought and after thought. that neither pushes nor begs, that, when you do not obstruct it, governs. You can find this I, without mysticism, without drama. Who is it that notices the stream of your thoughts? If you can observe a thought rising, lingering, passing, then who is the thinker? If you can feel a tightness in the chest and say, "There is fear," who is the one saying so? If you can watch the body as if it were your student, it's fidgeting, it's bracing, it's pleading, who is the teacher? If you can be aware of your breath moving in, moving out, who is breathing? Be still and know, I am God. The I that knows is not the body and not the chattering mind. It is the presence that watches both and is not at their mercy. Suffering is intensified the moment the named self takes authorship. I must fix my body. I must fix my life. I must fix them. And in that instant, the burden rolls onto little shoulders that were never built for government. Fear rides upon that claim. The mind begins to manipulate, the tongue to promise, the shoulders to lift as if God were a weight to be hoisted. And the performance, fed by your combat, grows. Put up thy sword, within. Withdraw the personal authority that pretends it can engineer reality. Be still and know, I am God. In our practice, you will reverse roles. The person becomes a beholder, a student. The I becomes the doer. Outwardly, yes, people will say, "You spoke kindly. You made a wise choice. You held your peace. You healed." Inwardly, you will know you did not. Inwardly, you will know, I am experiencing myself as your life. I am functioning, although it appears as you. And in that humility, the strain loosens, because the only one capable of true action has resumed its office. So then, take your place. For a moment, imagine yourself just above the head, not as a picture, but as a sense of altitude, of clear seeing. Look gently upon the mind, and say without force, "Be still, and know I am God." Look upon the body, and say without scolding, "Be still." You are not ordering as a superior. You are acknowledging governance already present. Each time the person lunges, "I must fix," do not wrestle it. Notice it. Who is noticing? Return. Be still and know I am God. If you will practice this identity relocation many times a day, quietly, secretly, the named self will grow content to be taught, and the I will be felt not as an idea, but as government. And where the I governs, the appearance loses its borrowed authority. Claims fade for lack of your consent, and healing, which is nothing more than the revelation of what already is, begins to disclose itself without battle. Now then, before we move farther into method, we must be honest about the landscape in which you are practicing. We are living under a ceaseless parade, fatigue by morning, anxiety before noon, a pain that comes and goes with its own calendar, a diagnosis that starts to spell your future before you have even signed your name, relationships that tug and threaten, obligations that pile, bills that glare, clocks that shout, reports and letters and results. The world hands you numbers, pressure numbers, blood numbers, debt numbers, and says, react. The body mutters, the nerves plead, the headlines bait, and the named self reaches as if to stop a tide with bare hands. And you grow tired, not only from the conditions themselves, but from the performance of answering them, of arguing with them, of fearing them. That is the exhaustion. In our work, we have a word for all of this: claims. We are flooded with claims of nervous collapse, of chronic ache, of disordered function, of shortage, of rejection, of threat. Hear me. A claim is loud, but it is not law. It is a suggestion that presents itself as power, but it has no divine warrant. It lives on your reaction, not on divine authority. If you do not grant it a theater in your believing, it cannot perform. If you consent, if you rush, if you plead, it finds breath. If you stand still in I, it has no oxygen. Look closely, and you will see the hidden aggression in most fixing. The mind fights the condition as an enemy to be conquered. It berates the body as a delinquent child. It fights time. By Friday, by Tuesday, before the next appointment. And that warfare becomes the atmosphere in which the claim thrives. You can verify this. The more furiously you attempt to push away the symptom, the more finely tuned your attention becomes to its every twitch. The more you curse germs, the more power you attribute to them. The more you hate the organ, the more you enthrone it as a ruler. Even your prayer, when it begs a God to come defeat an opposing force, is secretly confirming that there is another power to be defeated. Put up thy sword. I must insist on this ethical instruction. Never undertake healing work while mentally attacking germs, organs, people, circumstances. Never. Healing work cannot be waged as combat. It is performed only in a consciousness that has laid down its inner weapons. Be still and know I am God. Do you hear what that means? You relinquish the fantasy of two powers. You refuse to be a partisan in a war that only your belief makes possible. You do not consent to the premise. Therefore, there is nothing to defeat. And so we come to our pivot. If claims are fed by reaction, then what you call doing nothing is not neglect. It is the precise withdrawal of your consent from the appearance of power. Spiritual nothing is not laziness. It is the disciplined refusal to animate a suggestion by fear, by will, by hurry. Be still and know I am God. Stand in I, as I, not manipulating, not arguing, simply withholding the only breath a claim can borrow, your agreement. From here, our method will not attack. It will refuse to grant authority, and in that refusal, the performance must quiet. Now then, let us speak plainly about this nothing, because if you misunderstand it, you will either turn it into sloth or into a hidden effort dressed in soft words. Spiritual nothing is not collapse. It is not lying on the couch while the house burns. No. You may move about your day, pay bills, answer a letter, keep an appointment, even make a choice that must be made this afternoon. But within, you stop appointing the personal mind as the healer, as the governor, as the one responsible to save you or anyone else. The hands may move, the mouth may speak, the feet may walk, but the scepter is removed from the named self. Be still and know I am God. Do you see what that means? It means you relinquish the inner management. You lay down the mental outlining. If this, then that, by next week, provided so-and-so agrees. You end the bargaining with God. If you will do this, I will do that. You stop trying to force peace, as if peace were a stubborn child to be dragged into the room. You refuse to use God for a purpose. That must be heard. We do not take the holy and bend it to our personal desires. even lovely ones. Put up thy sword, of will, of cleverness, of threat, even of pleading. Be still and know I am God is not a slogan you paste over anxiety. It is the inward turning by which the I is given its own office, and you, the person, consent to be witness. At first the suggestion will come, oh it will. This is irresponsible. This is how people get hurt. This is doing nothing while the clock runs. And the body will fidget, the eyes will dart, the tongue will wish to explain and promise, the shoulders will begin to lift as if to carry the universe. Expect it. I must ask you to accept that the first movements of this practice may be distasteful to the mind. You may not enjoy it. You may not even approve of it. That is not a sign to abandon it. It is a sign that the false governor has been served notice and is making speeches. Let it speak. Who is listening? Return to the command, not as a formula you throw at fear, but as a recognition you yield to. Be still and know I am God. And remember, this inner nothing does not forbid the small, sane steps of life. It forbids only the inner pretense that the person accomplishes healing by maneuver. You may answer a call without granting it authority. You may sign a paper without bowing to it as law. You may rest the body without hating it. You do not stop life. You stop the inner warfare that tries to push life into line. Never undertake this with aggression. Never. If you catch yourself arguing with appearances, condemning organs, timing God, stop. Step back. Put up thy sword. Re-enter by the door of non-aggression, and only then resume. Now, in the early stages, and we will do this together, you will address the mind and the body because they have been running the shop without supervision for a long time. You will speak gently, authoritatively as the witness. Be still, head. Be still, eyes. Be still, tongue. Not to freeze them, but to remove their license to govern. Do not hurry. Take it slowly. In time, and this is the sign you must look for, not only will you be addressing, but you will begin to feel yourself being addressed from within. Instead of be still, proceeding from your lips inward, it will be heard in the sanctuary of your own being, as if another, yet not another, were saying, I am. I am here. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Governance replaces effort. This is the core of our revelation. Spiritual nothing is deliberate surrender of personal management so the I can function. When this is your posture, appearances lose the oxygen of your fear and your hurry. They cannot perform without your consent. Do not ask when the result will show. Do not outline what it will look like. Stay with the nothing that is not absence but presence unopposed. Be still and know I am God. And let that knowing undo the secret tyranny of the named self, until there is no longer a technique to practice, but a government felt, quietly, steadily, as the only power. Now then, before you so much as draw the chair forward or let the knees bend, I must put before you the first discipline without which the rest is not only useless, but dangerous to your peace. Non-aggression. If you sit down to fight disease, to crush fear, to outshout a diagnosis, you are still doing violence in consciousness. You are sharpening a sword and calling it prayer. Put up thy sword. Better to remain standing, better to do no practice at all for that hour, than to enter stillness with a weapon hidden behind your back. We do not undertake this work to defeat an enemy. We do not enlist God to conquer a force. There are not, two powers. Be still and know I am God. Non-aggression is not passivity. It is inner disarmament. It is the deliberate laying down of blame. No condemnation of organs, no hatred of symptoms, no muttered verdicts against the body, the past, the practitioner, or yourself. Nothing and no one is your enemy. Not the germ, not the pain, not time, not the letter that arrived at 4 p.m., not the person whose name stirs your stomach, not even the frightened voice within. All of these are claims, appearances, suggestions. They have no divine authority and live only on your reaction. You remove their rations when you refuse to hate them. And to mark this surrender, to place yourself under right government before the first breath of practice, let this be your preparatory statement, quietly, without drama. Father, I seek no victory over anything. I seek thy governance revealed. Then, softly, be still and know I am God. Why am I insistent? Because aggression tightens the body and accelerates thought. The jaw hardens, the eyes stare, the breath rises to the top of the chest. The shoulders climb, the heart hammers, now, now, now. And the mind begins to invent strategies and deadlines. In that atmosphere, stillness is not possible. The named self, inflamed with cause and armed with timetable, cannot hear the I. And the claim, seeing your stance and smelling the battle, borrows your fight as oxygen and performs all the louder. You have seen this. The very attempt to cast it out enthrones it. Therefore, before you sit, disarm. Withdraw permission for haste. Refuse to outline what peace must look like. Refuse to make a show of force. Be still and know I am God. Use it not as a weapon hurled outward, but as the posture of your being. How will you know you have put the sword away? Ask yourself this one question. Am I trying to win? If there is even the faint taste of victory seeking, do not proceed. Stand, walk, wash your hands, look out of a window. Let the body cool and the thought slow. Say again, Father, I seek no victory over anything. I seek thy governance revealed. When readiness comes, it is quiet. The shoulders drop as if remembering gravity. The eyes unhook from their target. The tongue becomes willing to be silent. The person consents to be a beholder. Then, and only then, the body becomes teachable. The mind becomes a student. Receptivity begins. You can now take your seat without harm. And when you speak to the head, the eyes, the tongue, be still. The words will not be orders from a frightened captain, but recognition from the I that governs. Make this your unbroken rule. Every sitting begins with disarmament. If in the midst of practice you discover a weapon in your hand, an argument with an organ, a timetable against God, stop. Put up thy sword. Return to the preparatory statement. Rest again in non-aggression until the inner atmosphere is safe. Then proceed. And you will find, slowly at first, then surely, that in a consciousness where no battle is waged, the presence announces itself. I am here. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be still and know I am God. In that government, healing follows as appearance loses its borrowed authority. Now then, take your seat as one who has already laid down every weapon. Do not begin until that is true. And when it is, gently assume your place as witness, just there, as if above the thinking process, not floating off into some ether. No, simply a sense of clear altitude, looking upon the mind the way you might look down a quiet lane. You are not inside the stream, splashing at the thoughts. You are watching them move if they move. And if they do not, you are not congratulating yourself. Be still and know I am God. From this vantage, the person is not captain. The person is pupil, and you will speak to it with kindness and authority. Begin with the head, for the head has imagined itself the governor. Softly, inwardly, as one addressing a beloved student. Be still. Be still and know I am God. Let the forehead release its habit of pushing forward. Feel the skin cool, the small muscles at the temples unhook. Across the crown, as if you could smooth the scalp with thought, let there be a gentle spreading. The jaw, yes, notice the jaw. Let the hinges loosen without slackness. The teeth part a whisper, not hanging, just willing to be led. Do not press the mind down. Do not hunt for silence. Give the simple command and allow the structures to remember their natural rest. Now the eyes. Behind the lids, permit the orbs to sit back into their sockets, as if the eyes had been leaning on the world and now decide to recline. Release the stare you did not know you were wearing. The tiny muscles around the brow and the bridge, ask them to be still. If an image arises, do not chase it away. Look from above and let it drift. Be still and know I am God. You are not focusing. You are unfocusing, opening the horizon so there is nowhere to aim. Notice also the space behind the eyes, a cool, dark room. Let it be a sanctuary, not a watchtower. The tongue next, for the tongue is the last to sign a peace treaty. Lay it broad in the floor of the mouth, root softening, tip resting without purpose. Let the soft palate float. Let the throat widen, as in the beginning of a yawn that never quite arrives. Swallow if you must, and then let swallowing retire. If the tongue wants to form words, prayers, arguments, explanations, bid it be still. Not a gag, not suppression, a gentle homecoming. Be still and know I am God. And now watch the temptation to make something happen. Do not force quiet. Do not manufacture blankness. If a thought presents itself with banners, do not tear the banners. Stand above, see it, and return to the simple recognition. Be still. If the forehead tightens to listen harder, smile inwardly and soften it again. If the eyes try to help, let them rest back. If the tongue begins its cleverness, lay it down once more. Several times, perhaps many, you will repeat without strain, without hurry. What is occurring? The moment you can bid the body to be still, you make it receptive to a government you are not voicing. You are not hypnotizing matter. You are withdrawing personal authority so that the I, which is your life, may function as it always has. Outwardly, it appears you relax a muscle. Inwardly, the scepter passes from the named self to the presence. Be satisfied with the smallest sign. The jaw forgets its vigilance. The breath lengthens of itself. The eyes lose their appetite for targets. That is governance beginning. Be still and know I am God. Stay here a little while, as the witness in place and the body consenting to be taught. Now then, let the witnessing attention Move down through the neck into the shoulders. Look through them as if they were hollow, open corridors available to peace. These poor shoulders have been wearing the costume of responsibility. Lifted, rounded, braced as if the world were theirs to keep from falling. Gently, as one who relieves a porter of an unnecessary load, say within, "Be still." And do not rush on. Leave a small pause, 1, 2, 3, so the command is not chatter but opening. Be still and know I am God. Feel the heads of the shoulders soften back and down, the collarbones widen, the blades slide like leaves returning to rest. No pushing, no correcting, only permission for gravity to resume its holy office. Now, down the arms. Look through both arms at once, right and left. Upper arm to elbow, elbow to forearm, as if each bone were a quiet riverbed and the muscles were reeds that need no wind. Be still. Be still. Be still and know I am God. The elbows, hinges not clamps, let them unfasten their old conclusions. The forearms release the impulse to launch, to aim, to seize. Again, a pause. Do you feel the weight gather of itself, unargued? If not, do not manufacture it. Only repeat, tenderly, be still, and wait the heartbeat or two that lets the word come from the I rather than from the worrier. Now the wrists and the hands. Here is where control loved to live. Hands that reached, scheduled, signed, pointed, clutched. Hands that promised to make it happen. Bring the witness right into the wrists, little gates that have learned to brace, and open them with the same inner sentence. Be still. Let the palms rest uncontracted, the center of the palm becoming warm, wide, unhurried, as if a small sun rose there without any need to shine on command. Let the fingers uncurl from the invisible object they have been trying to keep from falling. Be still and know I am God. Notice the psychology in the physiology. As the shoulders drop their "I must," the inner narration loses its job. As the hands forget to grasp, the mind forgets to steer. This is rehearsal for the deeper letting go of personal control. Safe rehearsal, embodied, immediate. You are not abandoning life. You are consenting to be governed by life. Do not add commentary. After each inward command, let a hush answer you. In the hush, you may feel a quiet heaviness, as if the arms had been returned to the earth's keeping, or a mild warmth appearing in the palms, or a velvety coolness moving through the forearms, or nothing at all, but the simple decency of ease. Any of these, any, are fine. Be still. If in the release a thought pops, but what about, we must not forget? Let it be a bird crossing the sky of your attention. Do not throw stones. Return once more with patience that is not effort. Be still and know I am God. And now, listen. Perhaps you begin to sense that you are not alone with your arms. There is sometimes the impression of a companioned quiet, as if another, yet not another, were holding the hands from within, saying without syllables, I am here. Do not clutch. I uphold. When that is present, do not seize it. Let it remain or pass on its own. It is not your trophy. It is governance announcing itself. Remain for a minute more with the hands as pupils, the shoulders as students who have understood the first lesson. The habit of grasping is not your master. The scepter has passed, if only for a breath, from the person who managed to the I that governs. Be still and know, I am God. And let the small, honest sign, warmth, weight, or quiet company, be enough proof for today that loosening the hands is loosening the old claim of control. Now then, let the witnessing awareness, which has grown gentle and sure with the hands, come to rest over the chest. Not on it like a supervisor with a clipboard, but over it as a presence that confers safety by being present. Do not take a deep breath. I must ask you not to make a project of breathing. The breath has never been your employee. Allow it to do what it knows. Merely notice. Is there a pushing at the top? Is there a locking just under the sternum? Is there a ring of watchfulness where the ribs meet? Do nothing to correct. Be still and know I am God. Address the heart region without touching it with will. Not beat well, be strong, but be still. Be still and know I am God. As you say it, wait. 1, 2, long enough that the body understands this is not an order to perform, but a permission to not perform. You may feel a sigh come by itself. Let it. You may feel nothing at all. That is also holy. Be still. Your task is not to win a sensation. Your task is to remove the person from the throne so that the I may be felt as the life that already is. Now the diaphragm, the gatekeeper. Fear hides here, yes, here, like a small fist behind the breastbone. Planning lives just below it, assembling timetables, rehearsing speeches, tensing the future into the abdomen as if ideas could be stored in muscle. Acknowledge the fist without wrestling it. Be still. Be still and know I am God. Let the command fall downward as a soft weight. Often the first answer is a refusal. The fist squeezes harder. The mind proposes, maybe a few deep breaths. No. Put up thy sword. Do not manipulate the bellows. Offer again the word, and then add nothing. In a few moments, the diaphragm may release by a fraction, as if a belt were notched one hole looser. That is enough. That is governance beginning to be recognized. Move lower into the abdomen, the workshop of I must. Here the body tightens to hold life together, to remember 100 details, to brace against news that has not arrived. Meet it as teacher meets a child after a nightmare, present, unhurried, not explaining it away. Be still. Be still and know I am God. Let the belly cease its guarding. If a tremor arises, do not fix it. If warmth spreads, do not claim it. If blankness remains, do not judge it. Stay with the sentence until the abdomen consents to be innocent again. Not a warehouse for tomorrow, but a field already kept. Now listen. Do you begin to notice, without summoning, that reassurance arises of its own kind? It may come as a sentence you did not compose. I am here. Or, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Or, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. You, of course, cannot use these as formulas. You are not reciting to make something happen. You are being addressed. The moment you hear it, rather than manufacture it, stop speaking. Let the I do its own speaking. Be still and know I am God. Understand the aim. We are not trying to feel good. We are consenting to be governed. Peace, if it comes, is the fragrance of relinquished authorship. When the heart, the diaphragm, the abdomen cease their private management, the I is not invited. It is recognized as the life already present. No rescue is in transit. Life is here. Government is here. In that recognition, the claim, fed for years by your inner flurry, finds no stage, no audience, no orchestra, and must vanish into what it has always been. Nothing apart from your fear. Remain a little while, and let that be true without your help. Be still and know I am God. Now then, let the witnessing attention step behind the chest and look down the length of the spine, as if you stood on a quiet balcony at the back of the house, seeing the whole stair from attic to cellar. Do not improve the posture. Do not correct angles with zeal. That is the old captain returning. Only look and say, as one who teaches rest to a faithful servant, be still. Be still and know I am God. Beginning at the base of the skull, let the back of the neck soften its vigil, the small muscles along the sides forgetting to guard the borders. One segment at a time, no hurry, let the message descend. Be still. Between the shoulder blades, where old efforts have carved grooves, let the boards widen. In the middle back, where life's bookkeeping collected, let the ledger close. In the low back, where fear stacks boxes, let the storeroom be emptied without anyone lifting a crate. Be still and know I am God. Come now to the sacrum and the hips, the great hinges of flight and flight's pretending. Do not pry them open. Bid them rest. Be still. Allow the bowl of the pelvis to find its level, not tipped forward in ambition nor backward in retreat. Isn't your body your patient, your student? Then teach it the lesson of divine rest, not human struggle. If there is a hold in the hip flexors, the ready to jump that never quite stops, meet it with the same authority without force. Be still. Wait 1, 2, and let gravity answer for you. If nothing answers, do not manufacture an answer. You are removing permission, not applying pressure. Down the thighs now, right and left, long muscles that have run messages for years. They are not telegram boys anymore. Be still and know I am God. The knees, oh the knees, often telling the truth before the tongue does. They confess our hurry. Let them unfrown, not collapsed, not locked, simply willing to be taught. Be still. The calves which carry secrets, and the shins which learn to brace, invite them out of job. Be still. If a tiny trembling appears, offer no commentary. It is an old contract finding its end. To the ankles and the feet now, gates and ground. The ankles have been sentries. Release them from watching. Be still. The soles, let them widen as if remembering a meadow they once knew. Spread the toes, not with your hands, with permission. Let the whole foot feel supported. By the floor, yes, but more by principle. You are not trusting furniture, you are consenting to the I that upholds. Be still and know I am God. If warmth comes into the arches, if a gentle density gathers in the heels, if the toes grow quiet and forget to grab the earth, that is the sign that the legs are under government and not under orders. Now observe the turning. As the whole body yields, spine quiet, hips unarmed, legs grounded, feet entrusted, the mind stops scanning for problems. The searchlights switch off. There is no stage left on which the claim can perform. Do not rush to name this. Do not rise to inspect whether you have succeeded. That would be the old inspector collecting tickets. Instead, seal the session with silence. No verse, no measuring. Abide without syllable for a few breaths or for a minute, whatever the eye appoints. Let the inner word, if it will, speak itself. Or let there be only a presence without speech. Be still and know, I am God. When at last you return to movement, do so without breaking the seal. Keep the hush like oil on the surface of water. Stand if you must, walk if you must, but do not take back the scepter. The whole body has consented. Let governance continue. And remember, not by human pressure, not by battle, but by holy stillness did the appearance lose its borrowed authority. Now then, here is the turning you have been prepared for. Up to this moment, you have been the one addressing. Be still, head. Be still, tongue. Be still and know I am God. You have not hypnotized the body. You have only withdrawn personal authority and established non-aggression. When that atmosphere is true, when the hush is not a trick but a home, there comes, sometimes at first lightly as a breath on the nape, the reversal. Instead of you addressing, you will hear yourself being addressed. Not imagination, not dramatics, not a private theater. Presence. How will you know? The mark is authority without argument. It does not shout, it settles. It does not enter the debate evaporates. It may come as a simple inner sentence, no, not composed by you, not borrowed from yesterday, but arriving like a hand placed upon your shoulder. I am here. Or, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Or, it is enough. And at that touch, something in you that has been holding court dismisses itself without ceremony. The shoulders no longer need your reminder to drop. The breath orders itself. The mind ceases inventing errands. Be still and know I am God. Now, not a command outward, but a recognition received. Do not try to make this happen. You, of course, cannot use it as a formula. You have to receive it as it comes to you, in its own tone, its own time. If you go hunting voices, you will breed echoes. If you wait for pictures, you will see lantern slides of your own hopes. No visions are required. No trance is meritorious. The proof is this: less fear, less compulsion, more right action that arises without inner pushing. When the inner word is authentic, it leaves behind it a wake of decency, kindness to your own body, unhurried obedience to the next simple thing, a natural refusal to outline tomorrow. You finish the session and find that the telephone rings and you are not its servant. The appointment stands and you do not kneel to it. The hand moves to do the necessary, and there is no captain barking orders. That is governance operating. Now then, here is the bridge to our work. When the I governs, you are not trying to adjust effects. The cause is being touched. Outwardly, it will appear that you sign a paper, speak a word, take a rest. Inwardly, it is the I that functions, although outwardly it would appear to be you. In that government, claims lose the only power they ever seem to have, your reaction. The pain does not get negotiated with. it discovers it has no platform. The report is not thrown out, it is disarmed by lack of worship. Slowly, or at times quickly, body and circumstance begin to conform without your outlining because the scepter has been returned to rightful hands. I must ask you not to chase this moment, not to measure sessions by whether a sentence came. Silence may be the very address you require. But I must also ask you to honor it when it does come. Stop talking at God. Do not add embroidery. Close the lips of the mind and let the governance proceed. A minute of that is worth an hour of personal managing. Be still and know I am God. Let the I speak or not speak. Let it govern. In that obedience, healing is no longer a battle. It is presence recognized, and appearances fading into their native nothingness. Now then, let us state the principle without decoration, because if you miss this, you will turn this work into a better brand of struggling. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. Therefore, what confronts you as pain, as report, as mood, as figure in a ledger, stands before you not as an enemy, but as emptiness claiming a crown. It looks large because you are close to it. It sounds loud because you have been listening. The miracle begins where personal effort ends and the I begins to govern. Be still and know I am God. Do you see the mechanism? You do not defeat a symptom, you deprive it. You do not argue with a fear, you stop hiring it. The claim feeds on your worship, your staring, your rehearsing, your timeline, your counterattack. The moment you refuse to fight, you withdraw the only reality it ever plagiarized, your belief. This is not apathy. This is the end of idolatry. The mind ceases to blow air upon the coals, and the appearance finds itself cold, unattended, unperformed. In that atmosphere, it cannot continue, because it has nothing of its own. Be still and know I am God. Apply this across the field. The bodily symptom that shouts at 2 a.m. is a claim inviting you to kneel to a sensation. Do not kneel. Be still. The panic cycle that winds itself like a watch is a claim inviting you to believe in mental weather as authority. Do not accept its credentials. Be still. The relationship drama that runs its theater with tears and rehearsed speeches is a claim inviting you to serve personality as your ruler. Do not go on stage. Be still. The financial fear that waves columns and deadlines is a claim inviting you to accept numbers as law. Do not sign that covenant. Be still and know I am God. In every case, the bait is the same. Pay attention to me as power. In every case, the answer is the same. I recognize only one government. I refuse worship to appearance. At times, you will need a direct word to the tempter behind the mask. Use it with quiet authority, not with heat. Get thee behind me. Suggestion that anything external has authority over life. Not to a person, not to an organ, not to a bank. No, to the belief in two powers. And having said it once, do not debate. Put up thy sword. Rest again in the hush where presence addresses you, and let the I handle what the I alone can handle. Be still. Humility must cover this work, or you will spoil it with spiritual pride, or poison it with despair. We are not demonstrating personal power. We are not becoming experts at managing appearances. We are witnessing divine government. Outwardly, it may seem that you did very little. No grand prayer, no theatrical command, only a refusal to bow. Inwardly, however, the scepter did not pass to you. It was recognized where it always has been. Pride fades because there is nothing to take credit for. Despair fades because there was never a second power to fear. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. Therefore, when the claim next presents itself, remember, you owe it no conversation, no tribute, no stage, no sword. Withdraw permission. Grant governance. Stand in the simple decency of non-aggression and let the quiet do what argument never could. Be still and know I am God. In that recognition, the claim, finding no audience, no actor, no director, dissolves into its native nothingness, and healing appears not as victory, but as the peace that remains when you have ceased to worship what never was. Now then, I must ask you to accept something that your impatience will resist. This is not a weekend idea, not a clever addition to your spiritual shelf. You will not carry this in your head and expect the world to salute. No. Truth becomes power only in proportion as it is practiced until it is no longer an exercise but your normal consciousness. Be still and know I am God must cease to be a sentence you visit and must become the climate you live in. That takes time, never less than months, and steady, simple doing. You may know the letter of it already. You can recite me 12 times. There is no power in effect. All power is in the I that I am. You can even guide another through the head, the shoulders, the belly. But knowing the correct letter of truth is only a step. Repeating words intellectually is not the same as living from the I. Until the scepter is felt as not yours, until the inner address comes of itself and your hands do the next thing without inner barking, what you have is theory. Demonstration arrives only as consciousness changes, not as vocabulary improves. Do you see? It is the difference between talking about water and being wet. Therefore, set the time. Each day, close to an hour if you can. Early, before the world begins trading demands. Or late, when the house is quiet. If your hour cannot be had, do not throw the day away. Make it not less than a faithful half hour, and then return to it several times during the day in 5-minute periods. Mid-morning, mid-afternoon, before the evening work, just before sleep. Sit in the witness, say little, and let the body be addressed again. Be still and know I am God. These returns stitch the day to the presence and break the old habit of running for hours under human momentum. Now at first you may not enjoy it. You may not even approve of it. The sessions will feel dry. The mind will say, nothing is happening, or I am bored, or this cannot be necessary. Good. Those are the protests of the personal captain finding the wheel gone from his hands. Irritation, restlessness, and doubt are signs that the throne is being dismantled. Do not argue back. Do not improve the hour with extra decorations. Put up thy sword. Sit, address gently, and wait the quiet count of 1, 2, after each, be still. The dryness is the surface of a well settling after storms. Let it settle. How will you measure progress? Not by visions, not by fireworks, by decency. There will be less inner warfare, fewer debates conducted in the chest. You will return to peace more quickly after an interruption, as if a path were being worn in a meadow and your feet knew it. Right action will occur without strain. The word you must speak arrives without rehearsal. The email does not require 3 drafts of fear. The body chooses rest or movement without a quarrel. The phone rings and there is no spike of servitude. The report arrives and the breath does not shorten to worship it. That is governance. Give it not less than 3 to 4 months of this steady discipline before you judge anything. Keep it secret in motive. Keep it honest rather than dramatic. Several times a day, even for 5 minutes, step back into the witness and renew non-aggression. In time, and not by your clock, "Be still and know I am God" will no longer be your instruction to the body. It will be the unnoticed air in which you live and move and have being. That is constituted consciousness. That is when truth works, because you are not working it. Now then, I must ask you to protect this work. Keep it secret in motive and hidden in form. Do not display it. All worship is wrong when done in public, because it loses its weight and its sincerity. It becomes theater. If you must wear a symbol, let it be for you alone, and let even that have no explanation. Keep the purpose of it secret. This stillness is not stronger for being announced. It is diluted. You are not acquiring a reputation. You are consenting to a government. Be still and know I am God. I must also ask you not to pass this on as a technique until you have lived it. Not less than months, not less than proof by demonstration. A borrowed form in unready hands hardens into control and injures the one who tries it. It turns non-aggression into a new sword. If the practice should get into the wrong hands as a method to get, it would be better for them, and for you, that it never had been given. Do not teach it to satisfy curiosity. Do not present it as your discovery. When the I has constituted itself as your normal climate, those who are appointed to you will recognize in your quiet fruits what cannot be said. Until then, keep silence. Now, the rule. Morning, before the machinery starts, sit and re-establish the witness. Be still through the head, through the eyes, through the tongue. Lay down the weapons before you speak a word to the day. Midday, 5 minutes only, even 3 if that is all that can be had. Return to the hush, say little, and allow the body to be addressed again. Evening, before sleep, close the accounts without figures. Release shoulders, belly, spine. Put up thy sword. Be still and know I am God. If you miss a session, do not whip yourself. That is aggression in another uniform. Quietly return at the next opening and resume. Several times during the day, even for half a minute, step back into the witness and renew non-aggression. These daily returns are not ornaments. They are the hinges on which your house turns toward the light. For your own accountability, without display, keep a private note, 1 or 2 lines only, of when peace descends without your arranging it, when the inner address replaces effort, when right action appears without rehearsal. Let this be for your eyes alone. You will see over weeks, not days, an arc of decency. Less haste, fewer inner trials, a gentler hand with your own body, a natural refusal to worship reports. That is demonstration. That is your proof. Not what you can recite, but what ceases to frighten you. And now, to close where we began. The paradox stands and is true. When the personal self stops manipulating and enters disciplined stillness, nothing is not nothingness. It is the doorway. The I, already present, takes governance. You cease to do and begin to behold. And the claim, starved of your belief, dissolves back into its native nothingness. Guard the practice in quiet sincerity. Keep it hidden. Keep it honest. Keep it daily. Be still and know I am God. In that guarded stillness, the I governs and heals.